The morning sun painted golden streaks across the tarmac as travelers rushed through the bustling airport terminal. Among them was a seasoned flight attendant named Rita, known for her unwavering professionalism and warm smile that could brighten even the most turbulent flights. After 15 years in the sky, she thought she'd seen it all, until that fateful Los Angeles to San Francisco flight. The day started like any other, with Rita arriving 2 hours early to review the passenger manifest and prepare the first-class cabin. She took pride in knowing every detail mattered, from the temperature of the champagne to the subtle art of making passengers feel special without compromising airline protocols. As she arranged the premium cabin's amenities, her colleague rushed over with wide eyes. "You won't believe who's on today's manifest," she whispered excitedly. "The tech billionaire himself." Rita simply nodded, maintaining her composure. In her experience, treating everyone equally was the cornerstone of good service, regardless of their net worth or social status. The boarding process began smoothly, with passengers filtering into their assigned seats. Rita noticed how the first-class cabin buzzed with barely contained excitement as word spread about their notable fellow passenger. She continued her duties, ensuring every seat pocket was properly stocked and every safety requirement was met. When the tech billionaire boarded, flanked by 2 assistants, Rita noticed something immediately different about his demeanor. Unlike his public persona of confidence and charm, he appeared distracted and somewhat agitated. He barely acknowledged the crew's greeting, immediately demanding special accommodations that weren't standard protocol. "I need to rearrange this entire row," he announced, gesturing to his assistants to begin moving things around. "And I'll need the temperature adjusted. It's absolutely freezing in here." His voice carried across the cabin, causing other passengers to turn and stare. Rita approached with her characteristic calm. "Sir, I understand you'd like to be comfortable, but we need to maintain certain configurations for safety reasons. Perhaps I can help find a solution that works within our guidelines?" Her voice was firm but respectful, years of experience evident in her measured tone. The billionaire looked up, seemingly surprised at being questioned. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, his voice carrying a note of incredulity. "I own several airlines myself. I think I know about airplane safety." Rita stood her ground, her smile unwavering. "Sir, I respect your expertise in business, but my primary responsibility is ensuring everyone's safety on this flight. We have specific procedures we must follow, regardless of who our passengers are." The tension in the cabin grew palpable as other passengers watched the exchange. Some pulled out their phones, hoping to capture what might become the next viral moment. But Rita remained focused on her duty, neither intimidated by his status nor swayed by the attention. "Your safety procedures are outdated," he continued, reaching for his phone. "Let me show you how we do things on my private jets. Much more efficient, much more modern." He began pulling up documents on his device, his frustration mounting as Rita calmly explained why certain arrangements couldn't be modified. What happened next would later become the talk of social media, though not for the reasons anyone expected. As the billionaire became increasingly insistent, Rita made a decision that would later be described as both professional and profound. Instead of engaging in a power struggle, she did something that caught everyone off guard. She chose to turn this into a teaching moment. Standing at her full height, Rita addressed not just the billionaire but the entire first-class cabin. Her voice carried the weight of years of experience and genuine concern for passenger safety. "On this aircraft, we're all equal in one crucial way: our safety depends on following these procedures. They're not arbitrary rules but lessons written in the history of aviation, often in response to incidents that taught us the hard way." The cabin fell silent. Even the tech billionaire paused, his phone still in hand, as Rita continued her impromptu lesson in aviation safety. She wasn't just reciting rules, she was sharing stories from her years of experience, explaining how each safety measure protected everyone on board, from the most prominent passenger to the newest crew member. What made this moment remarkable wasn't just Rita's courage to stand up to a powerful figure, but how she transformed what could have been a confrontational situation into an opportunity for understanding. She demonstrated that true authority comes not from wealth or status, but from knowledge, experience, and a genuine commitment to others' well-being. As the other passengers watched this exchange unfold, something unexpected happened. The atmosphere in the cabin shifted from tense anticipation of conflict to something more meaningful. People began to see beyond the surface drama to the deeper lesson unfolding before them about respect, professionalism, and the true meaning of service. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of a flight that would challenge perceptions, break down barriers, and remind everyone on board that sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected sources. As the flight reached cruising altitude, the aftermath of Rita's dignified response continued to ripple through the cabin. The tech billionaire sat quietly in his seat, occasionally glancing at his phone but notably more subdued than before. What happened next would reveal a side of him that few had ever seen in public. During the meal service, Rita noticed him watching her interactions with other passengers. She maintained her usual level of attention to detail, adjusting a passenger's blanket here, ensuring dietary restrictions were met there. Each small act of service was performed with the same care and precision that had earned her numerous commendations over the years. Halfway through the flight, turbulence struck. Not the gentle kind that barely disturbs a coffee cup, but the type that makes even seasoned travelers grip their armrests. Rita immediately switched into emergency protocol mode, her voice steady as she instructed passengers to secure their belongings. The tech billionaire's laptop slipped from his tray table during a particularly rough bump. Without hesitation, Rita caught it before it could crash to the floor, protecting what likely contained valuable company data. It was a simple act of quick thinking and professional awareness, but it seemed to strike a chord with him. "Thank you," he said quietly, his tone markedly different from earlier. "I actually have some irreplaceable code on there." For the first time since boarding, he made eye contact with her, really seeing the person behind the uniform. Rita simply nodded professionally, but she noticed something had shifted in his demeanor. As she secured other items in the cabin, she overheard him speaking softly to one of his assistants. "You know, she reminds me of someone, my first boss, actually. Back when I was working tech support." The turbulence eventually subsided, but the change in atmosphere remained. During a quiet moment, the billionaire gestured for Rita's attention. "I believe I owe you an apology," he began, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I've been traveling so much lately, dealing with board meetings and shareholders. I forgot what it's like to be on the other side of service." Rita listened carefully, maintaining her professional demeanor while acknowledging his words with a gentle nod. He continued, "You know, before all this success, I worked customer service jobs too. Somewhere along the way, I think I forgot those lessons." As he spoke, other passengers in first class pretended not to listen, but their attention was clearly caught by this unexpected turn of events. The billionaire reached into his briefcase and pulled out a notebook. "Actually, I've been taking notes during this flight. Your handling of the situation earlier, it was masterful. Would you mind sharing more about your approach to customer service?" What followed was an extraordinary conversation about leadership, service, and the human touch in an increasingly automated world. Rita shared insights from her years in the sky, stories of how small acts of kindness could transform a passenger's entire journey. The tech billionaire listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes. "We're developing AI systems for customer service," he revealed, "but watching you work, I'm realizing there's something here that can't be replicated by algorithms. It's not just about following protocols, it's about understanding human nature." Other passengers began to join the conversation, sharing their own experiences from both sides of customer service interactions. The first-class cabin transformed into an impromptu forum on human connection in the modern age. Rita facilitated the discussion with the same grace she brought to all her duties, ensuring everyone felt heard while maintaining professional boundaries. One elderly passenger spoke up about how air travel had changed over the decades, noting that Rita's approach reminded him of the golden age of aviation. A young entrepreneur shared how her own startup had struggled with balancing efficiency and personal touch. The tech billionaire absorbed it all, his earlier arrogance replaced by genuine curiosity. He asked Rita about her training methods, how she maintained composure during difficult situations, and what motivated her to stay in the profession for so long. "It's not just a job," Rita explained, adjusting a passenger's pillow as she spoke. "Every flight is an opportunity to make someone's journey a little better. Sometimes that means following protocols to ensure safety, and sometimes it means knowing when to bend a little to show humanity." As the flight progressed, something remarkable happened. The tech billionaire began helping Rita with small tasks, passing drinks to other passengers, ensuring trash was collected properly. Other first-class passengers followed his lead, creating an unprecedented atmosphere of cooperation and mutual respect. "You've given me a lot to think about," he admitted as they began their descent into San Francisco. "Our company's entire approach to customer service might need rethinking. Would you be interested in consulting with us? Your insights could be invaluable." Rita smiled warmly but professionally. "Thank you, but I believe I can make the most difference right here, in the sky." Sometimes the most important work isn't about changing the world all at once, but about changing it one interaction at a time. The tech billionaire nodded thoughtfully, understanding dawning in his eyes. As the plane touched down, he wasn't just another powerful figure who had learned a lesson in humility, he had become part of a larger story about the enduring importance of human connection in an increasingly digital world. News of what transpired on that flight spread quickly through social media, though not in the way anyone expected. Instead of viral videos of conflict, passengers shared stories of transformation and human connection. The tech billionaire's journey from arrogance to humility became a trending topic, but it was Rita's unwavering professionalism that truly captured public imagination. Back at the airline's crew base the next day, Rita arrived for her next shift to find her coworkers buzzing with excitement. Someone had posted a detailed account of the flight on LinkedIn, praising both her handling of the situation and the tech billionaire's willingness to learn. The post had already gathered thousands of shares and comments from business leaders worldwide. "Have you seen this?" her colleague Priya asked, showing her phone screen. "People are calling it the first-class lesson. Your story is inspiring customer service training sessions across the country." Rita simply smiled, more concerned with reviewing the safety protocols for her upcoming flight than with her growing internet fame. However, the impact of that flight continued to ripple outward. The tech billionaire had been true to his word about rethinking his company's approach to customer service. His company announced a major overhaul of their customer support systems, emphasizing the importance of human interaction alongside their AI solutions. In interviews, he openly credited his experience on that flight as the catalyst for change. "Sometimes the best innovation isn't about creating new technology," he was quoted saying in a major tech magazine. "It's about remembering the fundamental human elements that no algorithm can replace." The article mentioned Rita by name, though she had declined all requests for interviews. The airline's management took notice too. In a company-wide memo, they praised Rita's handling of the situation and announced new training initiatives based on her approach. Senior flight attendants would now lead sessions on maintaining professionalism under pressure, using Rita's experience as a case study. One morning, as Rita prepared for a flight to Chicago, she found an unexpected memo in her mailbox. The airline's CEO wanted to meet with her. "They're creating a new position," her supervisor explained. "Director of Customer Experience Training. They want you to help shape the future of our service standards." Rita took the news with characteristic grace, but requested time to consider the offer. As she went about her pre-flight checks, she reflected on why she'd chosen this career in the first place. It had never been about recognition or advancement, it was about the daily opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. During that day's flight, a young passenger approached her during the beverage service. "I read about what you did," the girl said shyly. "I'm studying hospitality management in college, and your story inspired me to stick with it when I was thinking of changing majors." These personal moments meant more to Rita than any viral fame. She spent extra time talking with the young student, sharing insights about the importance of empathy in service industries. Other passengers listened in, and soon the conversation expanded to include several rows of seats, with people sharing their own experiences of exceptional service that had impacted their lives. Meanwhile, the tech billionaire was making changes of his own. His company launched a pioneering program combining AI efficiency with enhanced human interaction. Customer service representatives were given more autonomy to solve problems creatively, and the company's satisfaction ratings began to climb. He sent Rita a handwritten note: "Your lesson that day wasn't just about airline service, it was about leadership. We're now requiring all our executives to spend time in customer-facing roles. Thank you for showing us what we'd forgotten." The story took another unexpected turn when a prestigious business school added it to their curriculum. Students now analyzed the interaction as a case study in crisis management and emotional intelligence. Rita was amused to learn that future business leaders would be studying her actions that day, though she maintained that she had simply done what any professional would do. The airline industry took notice too. Other carriers began emphasizing the human element in their training programs, moving away from rigid scripts toward more authentic interactions. Rita's approach became known as the Sky Service Standard, though she always downplayed her role in creating it. One day, while passing through the airport terminal, Rita noticed a group of new flight attendants in training. Their instructor was using her story to demonstrate the power of maintaining composure under pressure. She smiled to herself, remembering her own training days and how much the industry had evolved. The greatest change, however, was in the day-to-day interactions on her flights. Passengers seemed more mindful of their behavior, more appreciative of the crew's efforts. The story had reminded everyone that behind every uniform was a person deserving of respect and kindness. Even first-class travelers, who could sometimes be the most demanding, showed a new awareness of their impact on crew members. Rita noticed more please and thank yous, more genuine interactions, and fewer demands for special treatment. As she prepared for another flight, Rita reflected on how a single interaction had sparked such widespread change. But she knew that the real story wasn't about one dramatic moment, it was about the countless small acts of professionalism and kindness that airline crews performed every day. The tech billionaire's company had recently announced record customer satisfaction scores, proving that humanity and efficiency could coexist in modern business. Rita kept the newspaper clipping, not out of pride, but as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful leadership comes from simply doing your job with unwavering dedication and respect for others. 3 months after the famous flight, Rita's life had found a new rhythm. While she had declined the corporate position, she agreed to conduct occasional training sessions for new flight attendants, sharing her experiences between regular flights. Her philosophy was simple: stay grounded while soaring through the skies. One particularly busy morning at LAX, Rita spotted a familiar face in the terminal. The tech billionaire was waiting at her gate, this time without an entourage. He was dressed casually, almost unrecognizable to passing travelers, reading a book about emotional intelligence in leadership. "I hoped I might catch you on this route," he said, approaching her with genuine warmth. "Our company's annual leadership conference is next week, and I wanted to personally invite you to speak." He explained how their customer service overhaul had transformed not just their metrics, but their entire company culture. Rita listened thoughtfully, adjusting her uniform pin as she considered his offer. "I appreciate the invitation," she began, "but my story isn't unique. Every day, flight attendants around the world handle similar situations with the same professionalism." The tech billionaire nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "That's exactly why we need to hear from you. You represent something we've lost sight of in the tech world, the power of consistent, day-to-day human interaction. As they talked, other airline staff members gathered nearby, witnessing this unexpected reunion. The tech billionaire greeted each of them with the same respect he now showed Rita, asking about their experiences and insights. It was clear that his transformation went beyond public relations. He had genuinely changed his approach to leadership. During the flight, Rita noticed how differently he interacted with the crew compared to their first encounter. He helped an elderly passenger store their luggage, offered his window seat to a child who had never flown before, and maintained a quiet, respectful demeanor throughout the journey. At one point, turbulence struck again, but this time his reaction was completely different. Instead of demanding special treatment, he helped calm a nervous passenger seated next to him, sharing breathing techniques he had learned from his own frequent flying experiences. During the beverage service, he shared with Rita how her lessons had influenced his company's latest project. "We're developing an AI assistant for airlines," he explained, "but instead of replacing human interaction, it's designed to support flight attendants, helping with routine tasks so they can focus on what matters most, the human connection." Rita's colleague, flight attendant Chen, joined the conversation during his break. "You know," Chen said, "since your story went viral, we've noticed a real change in passenger behavior. People are more patient, more understanding. It's like everyone needed a reminder that kindness goes both ways." The tech billionaire pulled out his tablet, showing them early designs for the AI assistant. "We're calling it the Rita Protocol," he said with a smile. "Every feature is designed around one question: would this help or hinder human connection?" As other passengers overheard their conversation, they began sharing their own stories of how the viral incident had affected their perspectives on service workers. A business executive mentioned implementing similar training in her retail chain. A teacher described using the story to teach students about respect and professional behavior. During the meal service, the tech billionaire insisted on helping distribute trays, wanting to experience the service side of flying firsthand. Rita guided him through the proper procedures, turning it into an impromptu training session that other passengers watched with interest. "You know what I realized," he said as they worked. "The most innovative companies in the world spend billions on customer experience, but sometimes the best solutions are as simple as treating people with dignity and respect." Toward the end of the flight, a young startup founder approached Rita with tears in her eyes. She explained how the story of that first encounter had given her courage to stand up to aggressive investors while maintaining her professionalism. "You showed us that true strength doesn't need to be loud," she said. The tech billionaire listened intently to these stories, taking notes on his phone. "Each of these interactions could be a case study in human-centered business," he observed. "We've been approaching customer service backwards, trying to automate empathy instead of empowering it." As the flight prepared for landing, Rita received an unexpected message from her supervisor. The airline's board had unanimously approved a new initiative, a scholarship program for aspiring flight attendants, named in her honor. The focus would be on training people who exemplified the values of professionalism, empathy, and grace under pressure. The tech billionaire immediately offered to match the scholarship fund. "Not as a publicity move," he clarified, "but because we need more people who understand what you understood all along, that true service is about dignity, both for the giver and receiver." As passengers deplaned, many stopped to thank Rita, not just for this flight service but for changing their perspective on what customer service could be. The tech billionaire was the last to leave, pausing at the door. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "that day you didn't just teach me about airline protocol, you taught me about legacy. It's not about building the biggest company or having the most advanced technology. It's about the impact we have on each person we meet, one interaction at a time." 6 months after the initial incident, the ripple effects had grown into waves of change across multiple industries. Rita's morning began with an unusual request. The airline's CEO wanted her to review their newly revised service training manual, which now included an entire chapter dedicated to dignity-first service approach. As she walked through the airport terminal, Rita noticed subtle but significant changes. The airline had installed new training pods where staff could practice challenging scenarios through virtual reality simulations. These weren't just standard safety drills, they were detailed recreations of complex human interactions, teaching employees how to maintain professionalism while handling difficult situations. The tech billionaire's influence had extended far beyond his own company. His new AI assistant program, developed with input from veteran flight attendants, was being tested on select routes. Unlike previous automation attempts, this system focused on supporting human crew members rather than replacing them. It handled routine tasks like inventory management and scheduling, freeing up flight attendants to focus on passenger interaction. During her pre-flight briefing, Rita met a group of international airline executives who had flown in specifically to observe her working style. They watched with keen interest as she guided her crew through their preparations, noting how she emphasized both technical precision and emotional intelligence. "You've sparked a revolution in service industry training," one executive from Singapore explained. "We're completely redesigning our approach to customer interaction, moving away from rigid scripts toward authentic engagement." The flight that day was special. It was the inaugural journey of the airline's new Community Class program, inspired by the viral incident. The concept was simple but revolutionary. Passengers could earn extra miles by demonstrating exceptional courtesy and helping create a positive atmosphere during their flight. As passengers boarded, Rita noticed how the cabin's energy had evolved over the past months. People were more mindful of their space, more patient with each other, and notably more engaged with the crew. The story of her encounter with the tech billionaire had become something of an urban legend in travel circles, inspiring a movement toward more civilized air travel. Mid-flight, Rita received a message that touched her deeply. A flight attendant in Dubai had used her approach to handle a situation with a demanding royal family member, turning potential conflict into an opportunity for mutual understanding. The story had made headlines in Middle Eastern media, proving that the principles of dignified service transcended cultural boundaries. The tech billionaire's company had recently released surprising data from their customer service overhaul. After implementing the Rita protocol, their customer satisfaction scores had risen by 40%, employee retention had improved by 60%, and surprisingly, their AI systems had become more effective by focusing on supporting human agents rather than replacing them. During the meal service, Rita chatted with a passenger who turned out to be a professor of organizational psychology. "What you demonstrated that day," the professor explained, "was the perfect example of transformational leadership. You changed someone's perspective not through confrontation, but through demonstrated excellence." The professor shared how business schools worldwide were now using Rita's story to teach about the intersection of authority, service, and leadership. Students were particularly fascinated by how a single interaction could trigger such widespread organizational change. As Rita moved through the cabin, she overheard snippets of conversations that revealed how deeply her story had resonated. A group of business consultants discussed how they'd redesigned their client interaction protocols. A tech startup founder explained to his colleague how they were incorporating human-centered design principles into their software. The most touching moment came when a young flight attendant trainee, who was shadowing Rita as part of the new mentorship program, shared her perspective. "Before your story went viral, I was hesitant about pursuing this career," she admitted. "I worried it would just be about serving drinks and dealing with angry passengers. But you showed us that it's really about leadership, dignity, and making a difference in people's lives." During the flight, the new AI assistant system demonstrated its value during a minor medical incident. Instead of crew members having to search through manuals, the system quickly provided relevant procedures and passenger medical information, allowing Rita and her team to focus entirely on caring for the affected passenger. The tech billionaire's company had also launched a scholarship program for service industry workers looking to transition into tech roles, ensuring that future technological developments would be informed by real-world customer service experience. Rita had been asked to sit on the selection committee, though she insisted on continuing her regular flights. As the flight progressed, Rita received news that her airline's new training approach had been recognized by the International Air Transport Association as a best practice model. Airlines worldwide were beginning to adopt similar programs, emphasizing the balance between technical proficiency and emotional intelligence. A business news channel reporter on board requested an interview, but Rita politely declined as always. Her focus remained on her immediate duties, demonstrating through action rather than words how service excellence could transform experiences and perspectives. Near the end of the flight, Rita's trainee noticed something remarkable. Passengers were spontaneously helping each other with luggage, sharing snacks, and even organizing a collective thank you card for the crew. The cabin had become a microcosm of the positive change that was spreading throughout the service industry. "You know what's most impressive?" the trainee observed. "None of this feels forced or artificial. It's just people remembering how to treat each other with respect and dignity." Rita smiled, knowing that sometimes the most powerful changes come not from grand gestures, but from consistent, quiet examples of professionalism and care. 9 months after the viral incident, Rita found herself walking through a transformed airport. Digital displays throughout the terminal showcased real-time examples of exceptional service moments, celebrating both staff and passengers who went above and beyond. The initiative, inspired by her story, had created a culture where kindness and professionalism were publicly recognized. That morning, Rita was preparing for a special flight, the launch of the airline's new bridge program, which paired experienced flight attendants with corporate executives for a day of mutual learning. The program had a waiting list of CEOs and business leaders eager to understand the human side of service excellence. As she conducted her pre-flight checks, Rita noticed a documentary crew setting up in the terminal. They were filming a series about transformational moments in business history, and her encounter with the tech billionaire had become a central episode. Though she had declined to be interviewed, she had allowed them to film her daily work routine to show that excellence wasn't about single moments but consistent dedication. The tech billionaire's influence continued to spread in unexpected ways. His company had recently open-sourced the Rita protocol, allowing other businesses to integrate its principles into their own customer service systems. The results were remarkable. Companies reported significant improvements in both customer satisfaction and employee retention. During boarding, Rita watched as a young executive participating in the bridge program struggled with the beverage cart. Instead of stepping in immediately, she guided him through the process, demonstrating the same patience and professionalism she had shown the tech billionaire months ago. "I never realized how much thought goes into every interaction," the executive admitted, carefully arranging cups on the cart. "It's like conducting an orchestra, every small movement matters." Mid-flight, Rita received word that her airline's training program had been featured in a major business magazine. The article highlighted how the industry was moving away from rigid customer service scripts toward more authentic, human-centered interactions. Airlines worldwide were reporting fewer incidents of passenger aggression and higher satisfaction scores. A group of business school students on board recognized Rita from their case studies. Instead of asking for photos or autographs, they observed her work with quiet appreciation, taking notes on her interaction style and problem-solving approach. "What amazes me," one student whispered to another, "is how she makes it look so effortless. But now I see the years of experience and dedication behind every action." The tech billionaire's company had recently released a study showing an unexpected benefit of their new approach. Their AI systems were becoming more sophisticated by learning from human service interactions. The Rita protocol had evolved into a new field of study, human-centered artificial intelligence. During the meal service, Rita helped the participating executive handle a challenging situation with a demanding passenger. Instead of stepping in to solve the problem herself, she quietly coached him through the interaction, demonstrating how to maintain both authority and empathy. "I've negotiated million-dollar deals," the executive said afterward, "but that was one of the most educational moments of my career. You showed me how to turn a potential conflict into a connection." The impact extended beyond the airline industry. Hotels, restaurants, and retail chains had begun implementing similar training programs, recognizing that technical efficiency alone couldn't create meaningful customer experiences. The term Rita's Way had become shorthand for service that prioritized both competence and compassion. A retired flight attendant who had returned to flying specifically because of Rita's story shared her perspective during a quiet moment. "For years, we tried to teach these principles," she said, "but your story finally helped people understand their value. You showed that true authority comes from character, not position." The tech billionaire's AI assistant program had evolved to include a unique feature. It now recognized and logged moments of exceptional human interaction, creating a database of real-world examples for training purposes. These golden moments, as they were called, were shared across the airline industry to inspire and educate. Near the end of the flight, Rita received news that touched her deeply. A small regional airline in a developing country had adapted her training principles to their local context, creating a program that emphasized dignity and respect while acknowledging cultural differences. The airline had seen dramatic improvements in both passenger satisfaction and employee morale. The executive who had shadowed Rita throughout the flight was visibly moved by the experience. "I came here thinking I would learn about customer service," he admitted. "Instead, I learned about leadership, humanity, and the ripple effect of treating people with dignity." As the flight prepared for landing, Rita noticed something remarkable. Passengers were spontaneously helping each other prepare for descent, ensuring tables were up and bags were properly stowed. The cabin had become a community, demonstrating how one person's example could inspire collective positive behavior. The documentary crew, filming discreetly from their seats, captured these natural interactions. Their producer later commented that it was the most compelling footage they had, not because of any dramatic moments, but because it showed how genuine professionalism could transform an entire environment. As passengers deplaned, many stopped to thank not just Rita, but also the executive who had been learning from her. They recognized that they had witnessed something special, a demonstration of how leadership lessons could be passed on through example rather than instruction. The day's experiences would later be included in a comprehensive study on organizational behavior, highlighting how authentic leadership could create cascading positive changes throughout an entire industry. Rita's approach had shown that the most powerful transformations often started with the simplest principle, treating every person with dignity and respect. 1 year after the fateful flight, Rita arrived at work to find the airport buzzing with excitement. The World Service Industry Summit was being held in the airport's conference center, and delegates from around the globe had gathered to discuss the revolution in customer service that had begun with her encounter with the tech billionaire. The morning briefing room was packed with flight attendants from various airlines, all eager to learn from Rita's regular pre-flight routine. What once had been a simple operational meeting had evolved into a masterclass in professional excellence. Airlines had begun recording these sessions for training purposes, noting how Rita balanced technical precision with human warmth. "Today's flight is special," Rita announced to her crew. "We're carrying delegates from 20 different countries, each studying how aviation can lead the way in reinventing customer service for the modern age." Her voice carried the same calm authority that had captured the tech billionaire's attention a year ago. As passengers boarded, Rita noticed representatives from major hotel chains, retail corporations, and technology companies among them. They had come not to observe a performance, but to understand how genuine service excellence could transform their own industries. The tech billionaire's latest project had taken an unexpected turn. His company was now developing training programs that used virtual reality to simulate challenging service scenarios. The system, built on real experiences shared by flight attendants worldwide, helped trainees develop both practical skills and emotional intelligence. During the flight, Rita demonstrated why her approach had become so influential. When a nervous passenger became agitated about turbulence, she didn't just offer reassurance, she created a teaching moment for everyone nearby, explaining the science of air travel while maintaining a calming presence. Watch how she turns every interaction into an opportunity for connection, whispered a corporate trainer to her colleague. It's never just about solving the immediate problem, it's about building trust and understanding. The tech billionaire's AI assistant, now in full deployment across several airlines, showed its value during the flight. When a passenger mentioned food allergies that weren't in the system, the AI quickly updated all relevant crew members and suggested appropriate meal alternatives. Yet it was Rita's human touch in handling the situation that truly impressed observers. A renowned psychologist on board, who specialized in workplace behavior, took particular interest in how the crew interaction had evolved. "What we're seeing here," she explained to her seatmate, "is the emergence of a new service culture. It's not top-down management or rigid protocols, it's organic, authentic, and human-centered." Mid-flight, news reached the cabin that the tech billionaire's company had made an unprecedented announcement. They were establishing a global service excellence institute, dedicated to studying and promoting human-centered service across all industries. Rita had been offered a position on its advisory board, though she still preferred to teach by example from the air. The most touching moment came during meal service when a passenger shared how the ripple effects of Rita's story had reached her small family business. "We run a local coffee shop," she explained, holding back tears. "After learning about your approach, we completely changed how we train our staff. Our community has transformed. It's not just about coffee anymore, it's about human connection." The documentary crew filming the summit had captured countless similar stories. Business owners, service workers, and corporate leaders all shared how the emphasis on dignity and respect had revolutionized their understanding of customer service. The Rita effect, as it came to be known, had sparked a global movement. During a moment of quiet, Rita shared with her mentee how the past year had affected her perspective. "Success isn't measured in viral moments or media attention," she explained, straightening a passenger's blanket. "It's measured in the small acts of kindness that happen every day, often unnoticed but never unimportant." The tech billionaire's influence had extended into unexpected areas. Universities were now offering courses in human-centered business leadership, using the first-class encounter as a central case study. Students learned how authentic leadership could emerge from any position in an organization. As the flight progressed, Rita noticed how passengers naturally began to mirror the crew's professional behavior. They were more patient, more considerate, and more engaged with each other. The cabin had become a microcosm of the changing service landscape, a space where dignity and respect weren't just ideals but practical reality. A group of international business consultants on board discussed how the service industry revolution had affected global business culture. Companies that adopted the dignity-first approach reported not just higher customer satisfaction, but improved employee retention, reduced workplace conflicts, and even better financial performance. Near the end of the flight, Rita received word that her airline's training program had been adopted by public service organizations, hospitals, government offices, and educational institutions were all implementing elements of the Rita protocol. The principles of respectful service had transcended the commercial sector. The most significant change, however, was in the day-to-day experience of service workers worldwide. Stories poured in from flight attendants, retail workers, and customer service representatives about how the cultural shift had made their jobs more rewarding and respected. As the plane prepared for landing, the summit delegates witnessed one final demonstration of Rita's impact. The entire cabin worked together to prepare for arrival, with passengers helping each other and coordinating with the crew in a display of natural cooperation that would have seemed impossible a year ago. "You know what's remarkable," observed an organizational behavior expert on board. "This isn't just about customer service anymore. It's about rediscovering our capacity for human connection in an increasingly automated world." 18 months after the viral incident, Rita stood in the familiar terminal of LAX, preparing for what seemed like a routine flight. Yet this day was different. It marked the first anniversary of the Global Service Excellence Initiative, a movement that had grown from a single interaction into a worldwide phenomenon. The tech billionaire had chosen this day to launch his company's most ambitious project yet, a comprehensive study on how the Rita protocol had transformed various industries. The results were remarkable. Workplace satisfaction had increased by 45% across participating companies, customer complaints had decreased by 60%, and perhaps most surprisingly, productivity had risen significantly. As Rita conducted her pre-flight checks, she noticed a young flight attendant from another airline watching her intently. "I started flying because of your story," the young woman admitted. "Not just because of what happened with the tech billionaire, but because you showed us that everyday excellence is the truest form of leadership." The boarding process that day was smooth, almost choreographed, as passengers and crew moved with a natural rhythm that came from mutual respect and understanding. The cabin crew included trainees from airlines around the world, each selected to learn firsthand about the service revolution that had begun in this very aircraft. A year of change had brought unexpected innovations. The tech billionaire's AI assistant had evolved into something unique, a system that didn't just support service workers but learned from their expertise. Every interaction added to a growing database of human wisdom, helping future generations understand the art of genuine connection. Mid-flight, Rita received a message that touched her deeply. A small airport in a remote area had implemented her training principles, transforming not just their service standards but their entire community. The dignity-first approach had bridged cultural divisions and created a new sense of unity among workers and travelers alike. The tech billionaire himself was on this flight, seated quietly in economy class, a practice he had adopted to stay connected with the real experiences of everyday travelers. He spent the flight observing and taking notes, occasionally sharing insights with fellow passengers about how this journey had transformed his understanding of true innovation. "Technology isn't just about automation," he explained to an interested seatmate. "It's about enhancing our humanity, not replacing it." Rita showed us that the most powerful innovations often come from rediscovering what we already knew but had forgotten. During the meal service, Rita noticed how naturally passengers helped each other, passing trays, offering assistance, sharing small acts of kindness. What had once been extraordinary had become the new normal, not through rules or rewards, but through the contagious nature of genuine respect. A group of business students on board were documenting these interactions for their thesis on the economics of kindness. Their research showed how companies that adopted the Rita protocol had not only improved their service but had also seen significant financial benefits through increased customer loyalty and reduced turnover. The most profound change was visible in the crew themselves. Gone was the traditional hierarchy that often separated different roles. Instead, there was a fluid collaboration, with every team member contributing their unique strengths to create an exceptional travel experience. As the flight progressed, Rita shared with her trainees how the past 18 months had deepened her understanding of service. "It was never about that one viral moment," she explained, adjusting a passenger's reading light. "It was about showing that true excellence comes from treating every moment, every interaction, as an opportunity to make a difference." The tech billionaire's company had recently published a groundbreaking paper on what they called the humanity factor, showing how businesses that prioritized human connection alongside technological advancement consistently outperformed their competitors. Rita's story had become central to this new understanding of success. Near the end of the flight, something remarkable happened. Passengers began sharing their own stories of how the service revolution had affected their lives. A teacher described how she had applied the principles in her classroom. A healthcare worker shared how it had transformed patient care. A retail manager explained how it had rebuilt trust between staff and customers. The tech billionaire stood up and addressed the cabin, something he had never done before. 18 months ago, I thought I knew everything about innovation, he said. Rita taught me that the greatest innovation is often simply remembering our humanity. Every algorithm we've developed since then has been built on this foundation. As the plane prepared for landing, Rita reflected on how a simple commitment to professionalism and respect had sparked such widespread change. The movement had grown beyond her, beyond the airline industry, becoming a testament to the transformative power of human dignity. The documentary crew, which had been following the story since the beginning, captured these final moments. But the real story, they realized, wasn't in the grand gestures or public recognition. It was in the countless small acts of kindness and respect that now happened every day in cabins, offices, and service counters around the world. The tech billionaire's final project, revealed just before landing, was perhaps the most meaningful. His company was establishing a foundation dedicated to promoting dignity in the workplace, with a special focus on service industry workers. The foundation would provide education, support, and recognition for those who exemplified the principles Rita had demonstrated. As passengers deplaned, many stopped to thank not just Rita but every crew member, recognizing that excellence in service was a collective achievement. The tech billionaire was the last to leave, pausing at the door with a thoughtful smile. "You know," he said, "we often look to the future for solutions, but sometimes the most innovative thing we can do is remember the timeless principles that make us human. Thank you for reminding us of that." Rita smiled, already preparing for her next flight. Because she knew that true change wasn't about singular moments or viral stories, it was about showing up every day, treating every person with dignity, and believing that small acts of kindness could transform the world, one flight at a time.